Welcome everyone to another edition of Stepping Up to the Plate. I'm your host, Michael Vega. So glad to be joined here in this special edition by a couple of former Milton High grads, class of '88, who were part of a championship team, a basketball team, a boys basketball for the Wildcats and Coach Mike Goodless. What a tremendous run they had. And since it's tournament time, we were glad to have them join us here on the dais along with my main man, Al Prezzuti. I'd like to introduce them now. Joe McMahon, who was a important, a factor in that team, Joe, as a Division II Player of the Year. And of course, Sean McDonough, one of the all-time greats here at Milton too. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for joining us here. Thank you for being here to share some of your experiences and insights in the run that you had. And Joe, what a great kind of career you had in high school, and now you're in the financial planner. Right?
Yep. Quick background.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sean and I won a state championship together in '88, coming out of Milton as part of what we would consider a relatively illustrious program that Coach Goodless, Dennis Duggan, and actually my father built throughout the 80s and 90s, whereby you had a state championship in '88 and then another one in '94. Sean then went to Bates. I went to Tufts, so we played against each other in college, which was a tremendous amount of fun. And our closest group of friends at this point, now 30 years later, are still members of that NESCAC division and of those two teams. And then after that, I actually played golf professionally for about 6 years on the mini tours.
Wow.
And then went back to business school, spent 15 years in Manhattan working for Citigroup, and then relocated back up to Massachusetts. I'm in Westwood now. My girls go to Westwood High. 35 years later, we're still sitting around reliving the glory days.
There's nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong. And Sean, tell us about your background a little bit.
So out of school, I was basically working at State Street, but always had a niche for sports and just loved being around. So I was a coach. I went as far as Stonehill as an assistant, who's now a Division I program. At the time, we were Division II.
Yeah.
And then I had my own program, a school called Notre Dame College, which now closed, but it was up in Manchester, New Hampshire. We had a successful run there, had a lot of fun. But as in the lower ranks of coaching, you don't make ends meet, basically. Right. So I got out, went back, got into sales, but was coaching, got married, had boys, and still was really into coaching, and then decided to go back into the high school world, and now currently the AD of Archbishop Williams. And
fabulous.
Both our boys and girls team are still into the Elite Eight. Most likely both play, unfortunately, on Friday, because I'd like to see both games, but it's hard to do when we have to get a neutral site because of our gym being a little bit too small.
Right.
And then our girls hockey team plays tonight at the Canton Ice House. So.
Wow.
And they're in the Elite Eight already, so.
So busy time for you in the state tournament,
Busy time.
Unbelievable.
Now,
We'll talk a little bit more about that
Is
too.
Marty a freshman?
So Marty's a 8th grader who plays on the freshman team, and then my oldest Tommy's a junior plays on
I saw that. Yeah, 6'3".
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
I was just looking at the roster, and I didn't think Josh was as big as he is.
Yeah.
Because they listed him as smaller on the thing I looked at.
Yeah.
He's what, 6'5"?
Yeah, probably 6'4".
6'4".
Yeah.
It's Josh Campbell, right?
Yeah, Josh Campbell. He's He had 5 dunks last night, just to give you an
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were alley-oops. The first 2 dunks of the game were alley-oops. It was set the place on fire. He's
The
just
other kid, Jackson,
yeah,
I think it was.
Lorenzo
had,
Jackson, yeah.
Lorenzo had 17 or
Yeah.
18 points. I mean, when you look at 27 and 18, that's half
Yeah.
of the points of,
Yeah.
of the night.
Yeah.
You know?
And
And
he
Sean,
had
you got your team. They're the top seed in the boys, and I think the number
11 for the
11
girls.
seed for the girls.
Yeah.
So you know, which kind of indicates that you've had some tremendous regular seasons. In fact, the boys were undefeated at one point,
Yeah.
all the way to the season's end, and they
Yeah.
took a
Yeah.
tough loss there. But it seems like that's something that maybe will serve as a springboard here in postseason.
Yeah, they both the girls and the boys team have had a successful year in basketball, and the boys have been ranked 1 since the start of the
Yeah.
power rankings came out. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about those later, but
Yeah.
the girls have been always around 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and they've been hanging in there. And they big upset last night. And our girls hockey team has been number 1 throughout the
Yeah, I
whole
saw that,
for
yeah.
power ranking. So the winter season has been a lot of fun. It's a
Yeah.
long season, the winter with the cold up here in New England, but
Yeah.
it's been a lot of fun. The team, our boys hockey team, I'll make a little plug for them. They were knocked out by the number 1 team, St. John's Prep, who's
Unbelievable.
a very good team.
Yeah.
2-1, they
Wow.
played unbelievable,
Wow.
and a great showing. They just couldn't pull it out. So
Now, Sean, as you're, bearing witness to this magical run of your boys and girls basketball teams, even your hockey team, and in what respect, I mean, does this rekindle memories of the run that you and Joe shared
Yeah.
here at Milton High in '88?
Well, it's funny. We had I called it a champions luncheon because we had so much success this winter with our league as the CCL. We had our girls track, boys basketball, boys hockey, and girls hockey all won CCL titles. So I put together a little luncheon, and one of the things I talked about was when we were going into the tournament in 1988. We had our own tournament here that year, and we played New Bedford and got spanked, and so it happened to our boys basketball team. They lost to Mansfield, their only loss of the year, and previous to that, our girls hockey team got pretty beat up by Andover in a tournament, and so I talked to them about how back in 1988 we were in the same position. Now we could have just said we're not good enough, or you can pull up your pants a little higher and just say we're going to get after it, and obviously that's what we did.
Yeah.
But you got to have short-term memory when it comes to the tournament. So
Yeah.
I explained to them it's one game at a time, but you only need 5 to win a championship, and so far so good. We're not playing our best in any of the sports at this point, but hopefully that comes back, and as we always say, just survive and advance, survive and advance.
Yeah.
And
But
what
that's
we've
an
been doing.
interesting point, though. I mean, short-term memory, I think, is one of the single most important things for any sport.
Yep.
If you have a bad game, you got to put it away.
Yep.
Golf is a great example. You go out, you hit a bad shot. If you let that stay with you, you're going to continue to play poorly. You got to just say, okay, let me go back to what I was doing well before, and it's forward.
It's a bad example for me because I relived the nightmare on every shot.
I'm right with you.
Yeah. Well, Joe, in looking back at that experience that you and Sean shared that year in '88, what are the things that serve as lasting snapshots for you?
I think that there was an expectation from the time that Sean and I met each other at about 13 years old, based upon the program that was being built at Milton, that we were going to win a state championship.
Wow, that's interesting.
As a sophomore, or as sophomores, both of us, and then Chris Curran as a freshman, the 3 of us played varsity, and we won the Eastern Mass. Actually, we lost in the Eastern Mass finals that year, so we made it to the 4.
As freshmen.
We were sophomores, and Chris Curran was a freshman.
Okay.
So we lost in the Eastern Mass finals as sophomores. We lost in the South Sectional Finals. We actually got upset as juniors. And then our senior year, we won a state championship. But our goals and our expectations that were set not only by our coaches, our parents, but also by ourselves were, this was in a lot of articles, but we wanted to win our last game. That was sort of the rallying cry that we developed at the beginning of the season.
So does that help you, or does that hurt you to have high expectations like that? I mean, I know that sometimes you just say, geez, if I don't play as well and I lose, everybody's going to look and say, you should have won this thing.
Yeah.
The expectation was that we had the best team. What happened?
Yeah, so technically we had the second best team. So Norwood was the best team in the country. They had a friend of ours by the name of Billy Brigham who ended up going to BU and then made it to the transferred with Mike Jarvis over to George Washington when would they lose in the Final Four, the Elite Eight?
Elite Eight,
But their team was just actually this year put into the George Washington Hall of Fame. Billy's one, along with Billy Curley and Ramil Robinson, Brian Edwards. There is this group that sort of had real national recognition. Billy was one of those players that had national recognition. So they were also in the Bay State League. We lost to them the first time we played them, and then we beat them the second time we played them. Wow. And we were really sort of disappointed that we didn't get to face off against them a third time in the tournament, because in our minds, that was our state championship. Whoever won that rubber match was the team that we would consider the best team in the state.
That was Duxbury?
No, that was Duxbury. Billy Curley then was a sophomore. So, no, he was a junior. I'm sorry. Was he a sophomore? Sophomore. Yeah. So we ended up beating Duxbury. We beat that team in the South Sectional Finals in double overtime, I think it was.
Yeah.
So you won one and lost one. Did you win one convincingly and lose one convincingly?
No, they were both overtime games.
Oh, wow.
And we lost at their place and we won at our place.
Perfect, actually.
So we did, but unfortunately they got upset early in the tournament. But to answer your question specifically, I felt like, and we've never actually talked about this, but I felt like the regular season was just a grind. Like we just wanted to get through it so we could get rid of all those expectations of we're going to win every game and get to the games that actually mattered, which was these 6 games. At the time we had to win 6 games, but the 6 games in the tournament, because now we were actually playing for the thing that we wanted.
I think fans don't understand that, though. I mean, really, look at just to go off on a tangent here, the Bruins. Everybody just looks and says, oh, Jesus, this team is going to make it. And Marchand said the other day, this is the regular season.
Yeah.
When you get into the playoffs, which is what we want to win the Stanley Cup, it's completely different.
Yeah.
But it's funny.
You have to put the things in place, though, to get there.
Right.
And that's I think the important thing. But the expectation, and for me, was never, did they win in October?
Right.
November?
Yeah.
Are they winning now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and
it's pretty interesting.
to jump on Al's point, part of what makes a season magical is the journey.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And at one point, though, did you guys feel like you were in the midst of a special season? Was there a game in particular, a win, a comeback effort that
I think they thought it was there from the start.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look back at it. For me, I mean, I don't. There was not. At the time, Milton was supposed to win, so like there was no when we lost, it was like the winning. I always say this: the winning wasn't even a big deal. It was when we lost. It was a huge deal. Like what the heck happened? Like but that was the expectation in Milton at the time, and so I mean, there's things I look back at and remember, but I never got caught up in the whole like. Winning and losing because we just expected to win. So it never dawned on me, even in the tournament. It was more of, my expectation for me was, I'm hopefully going to be playing against the best player, covering him, but I hopefully will have a big game offensively too, because myself and Joe were the focal points at the time of the offense. And when one of us didn't, hopefully the other one picked us up.
Right.
And it seemed to work out for the most part. Now against most teams we weren't playing 2 6'4", 6'5" dominant players. So we had a lot of times we were playing against 2-3 zones that were packed in.
Are you both forwards?
We were both forwards,
and the center was who?
Paul Joyce. Played somewhat center, but mostly we played 2 forwards and 3 guards.
Yeah.
Who were your guards?
Chris Curran,
Rich
Holman,
Holman.
and Greg McTighe, who's since passed away. That was the starting five,
And then Chris Clark.
was basically our shooter that came off the bench.
No, is Chris Kern related to Kerry Kern?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Brother, sister.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kerry Kern, for those who don't know, I mean, she had an incredible career here at Milton,
Yeah.
and I believe went on to BC to
Yep.
play.
With Sarah Ben and yeah.
Yeah.
So, Joe, did you know Billy Kearns at Tufts?
I did not. Basketball player?
No.
No, he's a
Yeah.
He
baseball
was
star.
actually baseball, but he was a scout for the Seattle
Mariners.
Mariners.
Yeah.
Got it.
And he was a Milton guy. I mean, we used to have coffee. We have coffee every Thursday
Thursday.
with the group. There's
Yeah.
about 8 or 9 of us.
And we'll extend the invite to you guys to come join us down at Steel and Rye
Oh,
every
nice.
Thursday.
Well,
So
we
you're
got
more than
kicked out
welcome
of
to
we
come by.
got kicked out of Brugger's.
Wasn't big enough for you
Yeah,
guys?
it wasn't really. No, but it's special to have you here to kind of share these memories that you guys have built here in Milton, because I think that there's a yearning for that championship culture here at the high school, and we've seen though that there's been success in basketball. There's been success in baseball just
Baseball,
last year,
yeah.
Milton
Yep.
High
Football.
winning, and then in football as well. You know, football had a tremendous season.
Yeah.
There were a
Jumbo's
lot of
done a nice
special
job.
moments. You know, I think during the course of the season, like I said, you know, there were plays that were made, pivotal plays. I'm hearkening back to the win against Hanover that put Milton into the championship at Gillette. It was a breakthrough for them, and Ben Caledonia with a big interception at the end that made, you know, Milton propel them into the Division III Super Bowl as a top seed. And we were there. Milton Axis was there. We were able to document it, and happy to mention right now a little programming note that, you know, we compiled the documentary of the season. It's called A Season to Savor. It'll be airing here right after the show. So after the show, hang on. You'll get to see the premiere of that documentary that we put together here at Milton Access TV of the incredible run of the Milton High football team this year, all the way to Gillette Stadium. And you know, it was unbelievable because the whole town turned out. And you saw, and for me, it was the first time I got to witness this, just how much this town got behind its team. Did you guys sense that too when you made that run?
Yeah, 100%. You know, there was also this sort of additive effect of the fact that, you know, when we were in, I think I was in 6th grade, was the first time that Milton actually made it to and lost in the South Sectional Finals.
Wow.
So at this incredible formative point in my life, I remember sitting in the stands and watching Brian Lenane and Michael Lenane,
Oh, wow.
and that group, Mark Sullivan, and that group of players.
Those are my contemporaries, by the way. I know these guys.
You know, losing in that game and being completely devastated that, you know, my town had lost. And the effect of that on me personally was, when I get the chance to be there, we're going to do it differently this time. And then the effect of our state championship was there was this whole group of 7th and 8th graders who in '94 ended up doing the exact same thing of Lamar Reddicks and Solomon Demike and that whole group of kids.
Billy Donovan in that?
Billy was a little bit younger than them, but yes, that group that watched us end up winning, and they ended up going undefeated. They were 23-0, and they were considered one of the best teams in the country. Forget about, you know, the state. Lamar was then named Player of the Year in Massachusetts. So you did have this iterative effect of about 6 years in between these 3 different prolific runs for Coach Goodless, whereby there was this group of kids who were 6th, 7th, 8th graders and watched this, you know, historic thing happen, and then decided, all right, instead of me sleeping in on Sunday mornings, I'm going to be up because I want to, you know, be like them. And the other thing that Milton really did different sort of back in the day was Coach Goodless and my dad in particular were the ones who pioneered youth sports in the town.
Yeah.
So when other towns didn't have this program, which really is sort of regular way for every town now, the kids start. Coach Goodless went out and actually started in the 3rd grade. When I was in 2nd grade, I played with the 3rd graders. And then when I was in 4th grade, I played with the 6th graders. So my earliest memories of playing hoop were with Stephen Murphy and Jamie Ward and Rich Rogers and that whole group that lost in the Eastern Mass Finals in '85. I had been playing with those guys since I was in 4th grade.
Wow.
Which gave you a good opportunity, though, to learn
100%.
guys that are in it.
And to get crushed every
yeah,
day,
and
to
get crushed.
literally lose.
See, I didn't have that town thing because I grew up in Dorchester.
Yeah.
And I went to Boston Latin. I mean, it was city school.
Yep.
So we didn't really have any,
Communities-
feeling to the community
right, yeah,
at all.
yeah.
I mean, most of the kids there were coming from all over, even out of the country.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, though, that, when I think of, I live in Canton now, and I get the Canton paper and I see all the things about the teams and whatnot. Milton, obviously, it's much different.
Yeah.
Well, I
Much
remember,
different environment.
and it's a great point that you bring up, Joe, how important I think a youth program is to the life, as a lifeblood to a varsity sport in a town, because you're getting these kids together. And the fact that, a team made that run all the way to the championship and lost had an indelible impact upon you. And that's the kind of message I left the football team with when I spoke at the banquet that they had. And I was lucky enough to be there. Steve Dembowski, great friend of the program, invited me to come. And I wanted to kind of set the tone there a little bit and to explain to everyone, what a special season it was, because the team succeeded in connecting all of us in this town, from administrators to student athletes, the students, the people in this town, the common folk, everybody. We were all abuzz about Milton playing at Foxborough, and to see the turnout there was heartening. And the other thing I said to the guys is that, you may not think about it now, but you brought more joy than sorrow to this team, to this program, to this community.
Yeah.
And the fact now is that the lingering question is, who's got next?
Yeah.
Who's going to be the one to step up? And now, what are you going to do? And I looked at the underclassmen. I said, it's on you guys now.
Well, I think the testament to what you're saying, though, is what we have right here.
Right.
I mean, this is
Yeah.
1988,
Right.
88.
and yet those things stay with you your whole life. I
Whole
mean,
life.
when things go a little south, so to speak,
Yeah.
I tell
you
you.
look back and say, you know what, I've done a lot of things, and I remember those things, and the guys that you played with, which is what really, sports is a community,
Yeah.
Right.
and the guys that you played with, and how hard you try, and how to lose
Yeah.
is very important,
100%.
because that makes you a better person, a better player, or whatever.
And
So-
Sean, I mean, the message that you conveyed to your teams at your luncheon, I mean, was important.
Yeah.
It could be the thing that, kind of sets the tone for them.
Yeah.
But as an administrator now, in terms of the logistical things that you have to deal with
not
as
as
an
fun.
AD, you're stressing about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Buses, schedules. And then if you have three
yeah.
teams going at once,
Yeah.
how do you, divide your time between all of them that probably want you there
Well, yeah.
or don't?
Yeah.
Did they have
Some
an
do.
MVP of that game in '88? Was there? Did they award an MVP?
Not of an
No.
individual game, no.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say, Milton has always gotten behind their teams when you still see it today. I mean, back in '88, I mean, we had,
Bus
we're
loads.
out to the Worcester Centrum, and it was packed. The Garden was even more packed. But they always get behind the teams. It's a great community. They do a great job of supporting their athletes. And as much as these kids are students first and then athletes second, sports is the only thing that brings a town like that together.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah,
it is
always
huge. And so I'm plugging Milton, put more behind your sports. No, but it is good for the community, because you forget about everything else and you're coming together as one to do it. But as an administrator, it's especially with my son on one team, and you know, it is tough. There's a lot of moving parts. People don't understand. Like, just one example, our gym isn't big enough, so we have to go, we're probably going to North Quincy on Friday. Well, I gotta talk to the North Quincy AD, figure out when can I get in, how many workers do I need? Like, there's a lot of, so that the show goes off and everyone has a good experience. Because that's the most, it's for the kids, that's the most important. Make sure the kids have a great experience. And then, but make sure that the experience around them with all the fans, the logistics is just, it goes off without a hitch. And it is a lot of work, but it's rewarding. And especially when you're there and get to watch it, it's just, it's a fun thing.
You know, it's interesting though, there's a little juxtaposition here. You had your dad that was involved.
Right.
And you, the dad, have your sons involved, so it's a little different.
Yeah.
But what kind of pressures do you have as an AD watching your kids play and they know that, you know, the dad is the AD?
I'd rather be on the court. I'll tell you that right
Well,
now.
I think all athletes say that. When you watch your kids play, it's harder than when you were playing because you knew what you could do. You don't know really what's going on with the kid that you're watching. Now your dad was involved with the Milton
Youth
program.
leagues,
Yeah, he started the baseball program as well as the basketball program. And my mom actually started the girls basketball program. So if you talk to Kerry or any of those girls that played on that 92 championship team, you know, they will tell you that, you know, that was particularly important to their opportunity, right? It wasn't like it is today where girls are considered completely equal and there's equal opportunity. This was early Title IX days when it wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same.
This is where my DNA comes out. See, I'm going to ask you, Joe, you're multi-sports.
Yeah.
Golf. And
Yeah.
Sean.
Soccer, basketball.
Sean was arguably the best athlete holistically to ever come out of Milton High
I
School.
don't know about that.
You told me to
Seriously.
say that. I'm only kidding.
High praise.
My son told me
High
to say
praise.
that.
Wrestling.
Just as an aside, I have to
Professional
mention
wrestling,
that my
professional
son and this character go to professional wrestling,
Oh,
believe it or not, with their kids. I
Yeah.
mean,
I loved it too,
It's
man.
entertainment.
now, when I was a kid, wrestling was on TV
Yeah.
quite a bit, and there were guys like Argentina Rocker and Lou Fez and all that stuff, and it was entertainment. My son, I think, thinks it's a sport.
I agree with you.
Well,
I don't think that, but
Well,
he does.
Thank you, thank you.
didn't they have like a big WE put on like a SummerSlam event at Gillette? And when I was working as a writer at the Globe, I got sent down there to kind of cover it, and I brought a date with me, and we sat ringside. Big mistake. You don't bring a date to WWE and sit ringside. You know, and you had the who was the guy from Iran? He was
The Iron Sheik.
Iron Sheik. He was from Jersey.
Trouble.
That guy was from Jersey.
He knows them
you know,
all.
Yeah.
So he gets in the ring with the guy from who is the guy from Russia? Big dude.
Ivan
He was-
Koloff.
Ivan
Yeah.
Koloff from somewhere in Siberia is what, you know. So they get in the ring, and I heard this with my own two ears. The Sheik gets Ivan in a headline. Okay, Boston Crab. We're gonna do the Boston Crab. And they do the Boston Crab, and I'm sitting there going,
We're
"Oh,
running
this is
down
like,
on time. I just
oh
want to
my
talk
goodness,
a little
yeah.
about Brian Holden and
Yes, yeah.
you know, the head coach. And Brian's an interesting guy. He's a great basketball player. He went to BU for a year. He went to Drexel.
Yeah.
He's both in the Hall of Fame at Archie's and at Drexel. He played basketball in Europe. And you know what? Kudos to you as the athletic director for what you're doing at the school, because I think all of the sports very, very visible.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have some great coaches.
And
We're lucky.
Brian is was a good guy, and I think we need to mention.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
The other thing worth mentioning too is our assistant coach, Dennis Duggan, is now the president at Archbishop Williams. So that's how Sean ended up there, Brian ended up there. Because of that 1988 team, Dennis
fraternity.
was on the bench
Fraternity,
with
yeah.
us for Coach Goodless and now is at Archie's running the entire operation over there.
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank the both of you for sharing your time, your insight, and your experiences here with all of our viewers here, stepping up to the plate. And once again, I invite all of you to remain there in your seats at home, because coming up now is A Season to Savor, the documentary of the journey of the 1988, the 2022 Milton High football season, the breakthrough season of a football team that made it all the way to Gillette. All righty, we hope you enjoy, and we want to thank again our guests, Joe McMahon, Sean McDonough, and my main man, Al Prizzuti. All right, we look to see you here again next time on Stepping Up to the Plate. Take care, everyone.